Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very, very well, Sarah. My voice is back, as you can see.
As I can hear,
As
as
you
I
can
can
hear,
hear.
hear and see. Yeah,
Yo, you
exactly. Yeah.
can't see
No,
it.
that's right. Well, I'm jumping ahead of like whoever did like a live YouTube or something like that.
Actually, that's like one of my pet peeves. Like when people, and I even catch myself doing it, like as you can see, when it's like, no, it's a sound. You really
Yeah,
can't see it. You can hear the difference. You
yeah,
can't see the difference.
yes. You can't hear the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just odd, but so I have a confession.
What's your confession?
I caved.
You
I
caved.
watched the Avengers Endgame trailer.
Yeah. So, folks, if you were following any of our either our personal Twitter feeds this morning or the show page, Sarah was like, nope, nope, nope. But then I was like teasing her about it, and so she caved.
That's not what happened.
Well, I
You can
did send
see
you a
for
tweet
like
there. I
two
caved you.
minutes. Yeah, barely, barely.
Yeah,
Um, and I just decided that Will was taking forever to update his computer, and I had time to watch the trailer. I'm kind of disappointed by it
really.
because
I guess after all the hype of everybody, like,
I know
well,
I was expecting some more like actual. I don't know. I recall the trailers for Infinity War. There was so much momentum,
mhm,
like with with a lot of the scenes they chose. But as much as I didn't like this trailer, I didn't like it because it did exactly what it should be doing, which is not telling you exactly what's going to happen and showing you all of these scenes. Like you're already buying your ticket. They don't need to
yeah,
sell you to go see this movie in
they don't.
cinemas. That's been sold.
Yeah, yeah. I have been underwhelmed by recent trailers, but I really, really like this one. I think just the montages that they had at the beginning with just retelling the story, as far as our key characters, and obviously the little new looks of Hawkeye. Well, actually showing how he's morphed into Ronin, and just like with Infinity War, there was that scene of them running in the jungle that obviously didn't make it into the final cut. So, I don't expect to see them in the quantum suits walking in a parade like that in the final cut of the film.
Mhm.
And so, but I thought it did, as you said, what it was supposed to do. We are already take my money already, and so there's nothing to sell here at this point. I think they were very smart in that they just dropped it. There was no like, oh, this week we're anticipating a new Endgame trailer. It was just like, oh, there's a new Endgame trailer. Oh, it's like pulling on the heartstrings. Oh, we have some new footage, but we're also remembering why we love these characters to begin with, as it sets it up, and they close it strong with Thor and Captain Marvel.
I don't know if that was strong.
I
It was a nice nod, especially because Captain Marvel just came out,
Yeah, and
and so you kind of you know she's going to be in the movie. I don't know. I don't know if it was a strong finish, but yeah,
yeah,
you're
I
being
thought
so
so.
articulate right now. So
Well,
articulate.
yeah, well, I guess yeah, as you said to me while we were getting ready to record, you've already seen the gifs and things already percolating all over Twitter and internet today. So you've probably it's kind of like you were spoiled to begin with, as far as kind of knowing what pieces are going to be in the trailer. So unlike
Specifically that scene because I
it,
watched the gift and then I'm like, I might as well watch the full trailer.
yeah, exactly. So so it probably ruined it for you, instead of having that raw, like, first time you see it, earlier in the day. So that's the internet gives and it takes, and sometimes when you do, unfortunately, because of obligations or whatever, sometimes you can't see things when they first drop, and it does ruin the experience. But to the larger point of this is going to be a 3-hour film, and it's going to, again, it sells itself. I'm glad they are holding back on dropping too many scenes from the movie because, again, like your original thought, you don't want to be spoiled.
Mm-hmm. Right, right, exactly. Speaking of give and take and ruining things, let's talk about Arrow.
Okay.
I just am so annoyed with Arrow season 7 at this point because I was watching the episode and I'm like, I do not care about 90% of the stuff. I'm a big Elicity shipper. I do not care that she's pregnant right now because I know who Mia is. Like we've seen
Yeah.
Mia.
Yeah.
And I'm just very confused as to what I'm watching. Like I actually, for one of the few times, I preferred The Flash over Arrow this week by a
Wow.
large amount. It's just, I'm so, like the one piece of dialogue where I was like, ooh, that's interesting is that brief moment when Bronze Tiger is refers to his son as Little Hawk. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. All right, so John Diggle, he's going to adopt Connor Hawks. So that is something that they're going to set up, and they're going to get a reveal, much like Dinah's scar across her neck. It's
Right.
just, I take it back. I also really liked everything they were doing with Renee and Dinah, but I could not help but get frustrated because they were really building that dynamic the first half of the season. And then I felt like somebody said, hey, we have to wait 5 episodes and then we're going to hit the restart and then they're going to come back together. And I'm like, whoa,
Mm.
why? What's the point? I, and last but not least, there is something very off about Stephen Amell's acting. Like, I know Oliver Queen is broody, but I've never seen a broodier version of him. Like, it's kind of like Stephen Amell is reconciling the fact that, like, in only a certain amount of episodes left, he will not return to this set or return to this character. Granted, I highly suspect he's going to do guest stars on the other shows.
Yeah.
But it's just there's something so off about it. I mean, if you compare these past few episodes to the first half of the season, his acting style has completely changed, and it's bothering me so much because I felt like he was doing so good that to see this this full 360 turn and suddenly it's like he's just reciting dialogue. I don't know. I'm very frustrated and angry about what's happened to the show.
Yeah, I could see your point about Steven. I think part of it is learning. For 7 years you've had this character be on the other side of the line, and as far as enforcing the law, he was a lawless vigilante. He set his own rules, and now he's having to basically operate within these new parameters that were set by the mayor and set by Dinah. Because obviously, because Dinah kept reminding everyone it's her ass on the line. So, so I get that. Maybe it's the wardrobe choices that they're putting him in. I don't know if he just. I don't know. He doesn't. You're right in the sense that he doesn't seem comfortable in his own skin, and maybe it is intentional that it's because he is adjusting to this new life as an unhooded Arrow, Green Arrow. So so I think that's so I you're right. There is something different about his portrayal and performance as of late, and it could be story, or it could be like you said, he's just coming to realization that hey, this run is coming to an end. Because I mean, even though the announcement came last week, there's probably been discussions since he's a producer now, if I remember. Doesn't he have producer credit?
I don't think he does.
Okay. But at least he is the lead of the show, so he is going to be intimately involved with what's going on.
I strongly believe he knew over the hiatus.
Yeah.
what was going to happen because of that interview that set Twitter aflame with Michael Rosenbaum. The way he talked about it, and we all knew, we all suspected based off of that interview, okay, is this the last season?
Right.
Then he came out and was like, well, all I said was I didn't sign my contract. So then they announced, oh, I signed my season 8 contract. And everybody's like, did you watch the crossover? Because I watched the crossover. Did you see what I saw? I saw what you saw. This is literally in my mind how me and Will talk to one another.
Yep. And you all too. Yeah, you're joining in our little circle. But yeah, but so maybe that is coming through in his portrayal. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is, because he's having to, just like Oliver Queen, rectify the fact that this was actually his decision to make. Everybody wonders how Supernatural is going so long. The fact of the matter is, if Jared and Jensen did not want to do it, the show would end. But they keep getting renewed because they keep signing up for more because they don't want to go and try to hunt for jobs.
Right.
Like there's a difference.
Yeah, and Steven was very clear in that Michael Rosenbaum interview on that podcast. He is he talked about looking for other opportunities and being, maybe moving behind the camera and playing at other characters and stuff. So I know we didn't really get into it deep last week with when the announcement first came out, but I think your analysis of this episode, I have to admit, when I was watching it, I did watch it now with the full knowledge that this show is coming to an end, and so I was starting to pick up on those little things that, like you said, portrayals are being maybe different, possible setups for spinoffs, and I've seen some articles this week about possible Black Star and spinoff, or Amico, which I want to talk about Amico killing Diaz for just a quick moment, because that Bronze Tiger sharing that little tidbit, there was a moment with her, with Dante and everything. There's definitely a setup of a betrayal that's going to drop. I mean, we got to have somebody betraying the team, and this is the logical place where it's to happen, especially as Oliver tries to build this relationship with her.
Absolutely. Amiko I haven't given much thought to her, and I don't know what that means. I think I've been so preoccupied with all of the news about the show itself, with everything they're doing with Oliver and Felicity, and all of the mistakes they're making, in my opinion, about those characters, and giving them opportunity to walk away like feeling complete. I just have not given much thought, and I feel like part of it, again, goes back to my thoughts on Renee and Dinah this week. I feel like Amiko's prominent in one episode, gone the next, prominent in another, gone the next.
Yeah.
And so, and same thing with, what's his face? The new big bad, who now I can't even remember, Dante.
Oh, Dante, yeah. Well, Dante, I have to say that was it was a nice surprise with Adrian Paul. Yeah, that was. I will say for season 7, they have been bringing it as far as guest casting this year.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. I like the fact that they revealed that connection. They also then took this episode to reveal that she had killed him. It killed Diaz, and so you do know that betrayal is coming. Yet they also continue to flash forward and show me a version of Star City where I'm constantly like, how do we get there within 16 episodes? How do you explain like 20 plus years of history to make this place go to shit? Yeah. So I don't know. There's something about it where I'm like distracted.
Well,
And I think that's the best way for me to articulate this. I am just distracted looking for answers, not about what's happening in present day, but how we get to the future.
mhm. How we get to the future. We had the cassette tape and Felicity's recording for William and Mia,
Hmm.
and I'm still holding on to my theory that Felicity is not dead,
Absolutely.
and so and we again. I started on this and I didn't finish my thought on the Black Star William possible spinoff. It's possible. I don't know that,
It's not going to work.
but it's not going to work. I mean, it's just it's not. I mean, I know there's some theories out there that and people and sources are saying that there's going to be new shows and blah blah blah. And I read those articles and stuff, and I'm just like, just stop, just stop. I mean, really.
I agree. I
And
totally agree.
yeah, just enjoy it for what we have. I think with the alternate version that we're seeing of Star City, maybe the crisis will cause another shift to get us back to a better place. I mean, they did touch on that with Oliver and Felicity talking about raising family and having their own children and bringing them into a better world. And so I don't think they just dropped that in a bit of dialogue in the episode this week just to do it as a throwaway line. I mean, I think at the end game, Oliver will, he will be successful in his mission, because otherwise I would hate to think that they would end the series on a note of failure by Oliver.
Yeah, but if he's going up against Thanos, I mean, it's Endgame after all. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Well, again, but we have the Flash and Legends, if they bring them back for Crisis, they can go off on one of any number of 52 timelines that XS created. So.
Oh my God, excess. And this is another thing that is distracting me from focusing on Arrow present day. All of the Flash comparisons. I mean, it boggles my mind how similar these seasons are between the two shows, because in both cases we see the children of the prominent couple on both shows, and how those actions are affecting present day, and there's betrayals and there's new relationships, and it's very interesting. Like I still, anytime I see Felicity on Arrow now, I'm like constantly comparing her to Iris, because they're both dealing with very similar issues in terms of motherhood and protecting your children while your husband is a vigilante or a hero and has to do that sacrifice.
Right.
And what does that mean? And what does that mean not only about you as a mom, but also as you as a partner? So it's very interesting how these two shows are similar.
Yeah, another way they're similar is their predictability.
Because every season involves somebody coming into Team Flash and saying, "Hey, I'm a good guy." And you know what?
Yep.
They're not.
Right.
Every single time.
Yeah.
And I had the exact same thought that you just mentioned, Will. Like, are you kidding me? It's season 5 and we're still doing the same thing every single time? Every time.
Yeah. Well, in the context of Arrow this week, it was so predictable and I think that was probably why you're feeling distracted or feeling kind of off by the episode of them suiting up again. I mean, it was just like, okay, you're set up this conflict. I wish they had really spent more with the mayor and Dinah, and I really they really underutilized Dinah in some regard. I mean, they addressed her crisis of confidence and everything, given that she lost her cry. But there was so much more they could have mined there. But I know she's a supporting character, but it seems that other supporting characters have had good little arcs throughout the season, And I really wish they had stuck more on that instead of the quick rush to, okay, we're all going to go back to the bunker and suit up again and have the new special vigilante sanction unit. I mean, I was just like, man, you're telegraphing everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
But seriously, can we talk Flash now?
Yes, let's talk to the Flash. Let's go to the Flash.
Let's talk to the Flash. Because we've got timelines, we've got Thawns running amok, we have Cicada is back, and Cicada, I'm sure you appreciated him in this episode because they put him to sleep for most of it. Yes. And he was just really the MacGuffin of the episode by the end of it. I love how Joe is back.
Yep.
He has his fatherly moment with Barry.
Mm-hmm.
He actually even acknowledged how good Barry is as a father and in that role giving out advice. Mm-hmm. And then he is also the only one to be smart enough to realize that, this doctor person is pretty suspicious.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, it's all thanks to Joe.
It's all thanks. Hey, he's the master detective.
He is. Like, why do we need Sherlock again? And I love how he's taking all the credit, like my 73rd Cicada, and it's like, no, this was Joe.
This is all Joe West. Yes. Oh. But I will say this: I'm glad that they did bookend several things. Speaking of Joe, again, earlier in the season before Jesse had his injury, Joe ferreted out that Cicada was a father or had some fatherly relationship. And again, he was proven right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this episode, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in this episode, like you said, he figured out that the doctor was helping.
Yeah, and that Barry only... If Barry wants to appeal to Cicada, it's not about him being the Flash. It's about the man beneath the mask. Because you're dealing with this crisis of all metahumans are evil. Well, if you take away the meta, all you have is human.
Exactly.
And stupid Barry, I thought he was smart, but I guess not. He should have realized that because of that moment with their first encounter. The reason why Barry's still alive is because Nora came in and was like, "Dad," and then he stopped from killing him.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Forgetful. But then again, he got hit with like a daughter from the future. I don't know, and he's very naive right now. He's in the honeymoon period of having a kid for the first time, I guess. I don't know. He's got the goggles on. He's just making all the wrong calls.
Yeah. Well, it's not like I mean, Barry, you go from being fatherless to being a parent, and all the mistakes and all the little things of them growing up, he didn't have that time, and now he's just learning it as he goes, and especially in dealing with it with an adult young woman. So he can be forgiven a little bit.
Yeah, but I actually found the weakest part of the episode to be Nora. Mm-hmm. Like, I did not really care for how they are, because this is the point in the season of The Flash where it's like, do the freaking reveal or I will shoot you. Yeah. And so this episode, all she was doing was just, filling in time. Yeah. Like, because next episode we know the reveal is going to happen. We finally get there, but instead of jumping to there, we have to go through another hour of Nora just lying blatantly and the signs becoming more and more obvious that there's something else really going on.
Yeah. I agree with you there with Nora's this week. It was, I mean, there were some nice moments with Nora and Iris that helped bridge that gulf between them. Well, they've been working through it throughout the season, and this was, I think, a very necessary episode from that regard, with their having the scenes with the two of them, to set up that big gut punch is going to come next week when Thawne is revealed to be the puppet behind the current events. However, they are falling apart, obviously, because that was sort of the little tease we had at the beginning of the episode. Which,
right.
And again, talk about Telegraph. They did this a few weeks back, and and it's easy to think when Thawne was talking about his the timeline changing and stuff. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people thought Godspeed, but I was like, it's Cicada, and you have to, you do have to put the pieces together from earlier in the season, because if you recall from episode memorabilia, Cicada first reappeared as a woman after 2024, after Barry disappeared. But again, I will give the writers and the creative team credit for this. They are doing a very good job this season of doing what they did in season 1, of making all these different points in the season intertwined, and how even in the filler episodes, they are very important plot points, because you had that moment in memorabilia, you had the Cause and Excess, which basically blew up everything, and it obviously accelerated Cicada of 2024 coming forward, and it's messing up all of Thawne's plans. So it's not Godspeed, y'all. Godspeed's in the 2049.
I agree with you to an extent on that. This episode was very satisfying because you did see all of those little threads come together finally, and momentum really being built. Even though I wish the reveal would have happened at the end of this episode, but whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, I think that they probably could have still they could have removed some of that filler and still given you just what you needed, maybe in a different way.
Yeah.
But I also understand they're writing like 22 episodes of TV, and sometimes you get lazy, or you just fall into a rut of procedures or procedurals. Yeah. So it's all understandable.
Yeah.
I loved that they did the female version of Gracie, and this is the difference between predictability that we were complaining about before, and no, that's a good thing that we all knew, but you also didn't know how they were going to do that, or if they were. So even though you had your suspicion that was going to actually happen, you also would have not been surprised if they had done something else.
Exactly.
Like they had put in Godspeed. So there was still a surprise, even though it didn't, and it also didn't come out of left field. It's not one of those moments where you're like, wait a second, how do you get from A to Z?
Exactly.
I don't understand.
And that's and thanks for bringing that up. And that's really what my point is, what I said before, as far as all those little, again, it's maddening sometimes, but I really feel that 5B of the Flash has been really good so far, in that I've really enjoyed the episodes in 5B so far.
I agree. I think they've had much stronger ones, and mainly because it has felt more like Flash season 1 than anything in 5A.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we'll see, and we will hopefully get a very satisfying reveal next week with, again, like season 1, you have the big emotional gut punch of the betrayal. We've seen it before, but given that it's going to be Barry's daughter that does it this time, and it's going to be his arch foe that is the reason behind it, I'm looking forward to that. I really am, and I really hope that they execute it well whenever we get it next week, or over the next few weeks.
Speaking about shows where it just feels like all of the threads are coming together, let's jump over to Supergirl.
Yeah, let's do that. said a
Because
national
Ben
city.
Lockwood is back.
Yes.
I
He's
love Ben
back.
Lockwood.
I
He
like
is
Ben Lockwood.
so critical.
Yes, he is. And even Manchester Black.
Man, see, I like, we just got done talking about two shows where it's like they started off strong and lately not so much, and then the reverse is happening on The Flash. And yet, Supergirl season 4 has just been consistent.
Yeah.
So consistent. The only times when it dips is really when you don't see those characters that they started building up in the first half, Ben Lockwood, Manchester Black included. But now there's just like, I love that they made Alex protect Ben Lockwood while
Yes.
all of this is going on. Like I would have never thought that they would have gone there, and they did, and I
Yep.
was like, that's perfect because and we were talking about this recently in the sense that how annoying or how long can this go for Alex not knowing who Kara is? Well, make her protect Ben Lockwood. I will be totally entertained for another hour.
Yeah. I love the moment when Lockwood like put his arm on her, and it was just like, this is this is necessary, blah blah blah. And it was just that the look she gave him, and it was just, I mean, Shyler Lee just played that so well. And but you're right. I mean, that's just good storytelling when you like put two, her politics are completely 180 from Lockwood, and she has placed in that dilemma of having to protect him. And they even addressed it in the episode about how, when the agent, what's her name, Lovers, I can't remember the African American.
Yeah, I know. I knew.
President. Yeah. I
Yeah,
forget.
Director. I forget what her name is too,
Yeah.
but we all know.
Yeah, but how she like, even addressed the fact that we know what you had to do here, and you got to protect. You had to put your politics aside to protect this man
For your duty.
and do your duty.
Yeah, do your duty. Put your politics aside.
Yeah.
And do your duty, which is very. Anytime they go back to duty, and what is morally right, that is a fascinating aspect of who Alex is as a character.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's to your point about why Supergirl has been so consistent this season. They have been, it's. I know a lot of. I mean, I've seen some people griping about it on Twitter and other places about the politics of the show and whatnot, but it's to me that is one of the strengths about why the season has been so consistent, because there has been an underlying theme of a larger sense of duty and larger sense of story, and issues of the aliens here, like Supergirl, who's here to protect us, but then you have other people like you had Samuels, who was like, Supergirl, you're different from the rest of these other aliens. You're here to help. You're a hero, and so to me that is good. This depth of storytelling that has gone through the whole season, and then when you put a quote unquote big bad like Ben Lockwood to be that focal point, we're not worrying about reveals and all the other crap. We're focusing on like his motivations and those kind of things, and to me that's why I've liked this season so far.
Right. It gets to that point where I mean the first few seasons had a lot of politics too in it. This is where they've always wanted to take this show, because it's so relevant to what's going on in today. Yet, I feel like this season, they've really done their due diligence on focusing it on the characters.
Yeah.
Now, yes, you can have this big alien invasion and make all of these parallels, but if you don't understand why that's complex in terms of who these characters are and all of the different ways that and what makes up identity. I mean, you have Kara. She's an alien. She's been on Earth pretty much her whole entire life. I mean, it's all she's known.
Yep.
And she's also a hero. So they touched on that in that moment. Like, no, there is this third dimension to this person that you're not seeing. Alex is very similar. I mean, up until they wiped her memory, she was constantly protecting Supergirl, but really protecting her sister.
Yeah.
And she's also someone who's very duty driven, and there's a reason why she's a soldier. There's a reason why she went into public service. And even though, and then you have that played off of somebody like Ben Lockwood, who you described as the big bad. And I don't know if he is a big bad. He's really just a catalyst.
Right.
He's this face of a movement, and who we're pinning all of this stuff on, when really, if nobody else felt the way Ben Lockwood would, if nobody else felt the way that Ben Lockwood did about the aliens, then he would not be as big as a threat as he is, with so many other people getting frustrated about the quote unquote favoritism, or the quote unquote, well, this is just not fair anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that episode, which featured all of Ben Lockwood, that was a character study, and just the way you understand, like, no, I understand how people with morally corrupt vision get into power.
Yeah.
Because there is some sort of, like, you get why their message is heard when you see the experiences.
You do. And when I say big bad, I'm just using it as sort of the construct or what we're used to seeing in these shows. And I think, to what you just beautifully articulated is, this is why he is such a complex character, and can, does, from his point of view, he is doing the right thing. Because because of all the reasons that you articulated.
Right. And he's also dealing with his own civil war, because he might get thrown out of being the head of the Children of
Liberty. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. Yeah, because I like the way that whenever he became quote unquote legitimate bureaucrat, the other members of the movement were like, whoa, wait a minute, you're becoming the man. You're not this because and I could see it from the Children of Liberty standpoint. It's been their government that has, even though they have the Anti-Alien Act and everything like that, it still has been the government that has protected the aliens to begin with. So there's that inherent distrust of the system, and so it was very, very interesting, and I'm glad they explored that some when Lockwood started working with the president and got appointed as director of alien affairs for the government, because now the children, some members of the Children of Liberty were like, whoa, wait a minute, you're not one of us anymore. You're a part of the problem.
Right.
Of course,
and meanwhile, you have Manchester Black, who's now leading the elite, and they've managed in a very short amount of time to create this team of people who are following Manchester Black. And he got Hat, and Hat just fifth dimensional power. What the heck?
Yeah.
It's so cool. And it's kind of a cheat, though, because it seems like very convenient to all of a sudden have Hat come up and they manage to escape everywhere. But he, meanwhile, is also, like, correct me if I'm wrong, technically speaking, Manchester Black is not an alien.
He's not.
Yet, because of what happened to the love of his life, he is very much going up against Supergirl and saying, no, we need to protect aliens, but I'm not going to do this passive aggressively. I'm going to go full force and kill the bad guys, because this is wrong. And see, that's another interesting thing. It would be so easy or would have been so easy for them to have chosen someone like Mon-El to come to Earth and be like, no, we need to protect aliens, but I'm not going to do it the Supergirl way. I'm going to do it my way. But instead, they chose a human.
Mm-hmm.
And such a great move, because in this episode specifically, there was a lot of stuff about the duality of all of these characters and all of their viewpoints on what is going on as a collective and as a political movement.
Yeah, yeah, and in particular especially between Manchester and John.
Such a good relationship.
Yeah. I mean, just John just trying to get Manchester to come to his way of trying to view this situation and stuff, and very frustrating how Manchester gets under John's skin. I mean, John, who's like cool, calm, very rational, but this pissant of a human just like gets to him and causes him to lose focus. And I just love their relationship. Yeah.
And John had the line of the night. I'm going to find you like a manhunter.
Yep.
So guilty. You like, if they tell me in next week or a few weeks from now that, it turns out Manchester Black is actually John's long lost, twice removed son, I'd be like, yes, this is why they have, because it does feel like a very father-son dynamic.
It does.
In the sense that there was a rift and the prodigal son came home and suddenly he's at war with his father. And it's just, and I like that they are keeping that. Yeah. Because again, it would be so easy to really make this about just Kara and Manchester when they have their back and forth, but it's not nearly as engaging as when John and him go at it.
Yeah, the scene, the screen just like lights up literally when they go at it to each other, and it was a very the scene where Manchester, I guess, got whatever hologram crystal or whatever that was from the Fortress of Solitude, and John thinking he had captured him, and then of course realized that it was just that projection. Again, it just really highlights that what we've been discussing as far as their relationship and John really just trying to rein Manchester in, but he just continues to just fail at that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I actually was a little bit surprised by the ending. James gets shot.
Yeah, that was like a season finale kind of ending.
And we got Lex Luthor on the way. Mm-hmm. And wait, I'm sorry, I brought up James and then I quickly was like, yeah, he got shot. I like how, again, you're taking a human who has been best friends with Clark Kent, dated Kara, and very protective of alien races, and him coming at it from a journalism perspective manages to make a difference in the way people are viewing this this political debate, and then they end it with him getting shot. Like it's on the tip of my tongue. The mortal gets wounded and gets caught in the crossfire. Now, I do suspect that we got some Luthors pulling some strings, so it may not be entirely tied to the politicalness. But
it may not be. I mean, when it first happened, because especially given James was able to really showcase that whole sequence when they had the rally and how it disintegrated into the riot. James capturing those photos and stuff, and really, again, using the power of journalism and Catco to really shift the public debate and say, hey, what are we doing here? I thought when he was shot, I thought it was really tied to that, but But you're right. It definitely could be. He did ask. He was poking around Lena's black operations with the government. So it could easily be tied to the Luthors, especially given that Lex is going to be around next week.
Yeah. Or I mean, it could have also been Amiko. We don't know anymore.
It
She's just
could
killing
be.
people left and right.
Yeah,
So.
she just got a vibed over to to Earth 38.
Yeah, yeah. I think some don't kill rules need to get put in play for Amiko and probably a few other people.
Just a few.
Yeah. On that note, you want to talk about Black Lightning?
Yeah. It's I know we haven't talked about it in a while. It's been quite the journey with this season. Yeah, go ahead.
You're gonna have to do the heavy lifting because I cannot explain about 40% of what's going on anymore. But I will start off the discussion by saying rule number 1: we do not expose our identities. Damn it, Barry.
Yeah.
Rule number 2: we always have backup. Damn it, Carl. Or Kara. Damn it, Kara. Rule number 3: we don't kill. Yeah, damn it, Oliver Queen. During that discussion, I was like, man, all of their buddies have broken every single one of the. Is this shade? Is this some shade being thrown?
Just a little bit of shade. I think somehow Jefferson Pierce has got to make his way over to the Arrowverse because all his 3 principal rules have been violated by our 3 principal heroes.
Right. I mean, they aired this episode right in the same week where on The Flash, Barry reveals himself to Cicada.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm like, again? No. But yeah. There was a moment this episode with Jefferson and Jennifer and, going over rule number 3, which is not to kill. And in particular, why it was important as metas not to basically step into the role of gods, because if with these superhuman abilities and stuff, they could easily cross into delusions of grandeur and godhood and thinking that they are judge, jury, and executioner. And I liked, one of the things I've liked about Black Lightning is even when they have all this meta stuff going on, and now we even have reanimation with Lala, they still try to keep it somewhat grounded with the Pierces, even though they are, 3 out of 4 of them are metahumans. So that was, I liked that moment. I guess the thing about this last episode, I felt like it was going all over the place. Because it starts out with another green light person, and you have a police shooting at the very beginning of the episode. And then it was kind of like, just kind of left there. I'm like, all right, you kill Kate, man. And it was almost like a footnote to remind everyone that, oh yeah, green light is still out there, y'all. Don't forget this. We got this green light. But then we go off into, Agent Odell, creeping on the Pierces and, keeping them under surveillance, which is just very creepy when he's sitting there watching the film.
As soon as Anissa went into that bedroom and started taking off her shirt, and then they pull out and they're like, no, she's being spied on. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
They could have chosen a different transition point. Like, that's just wrong.
It's just wrong. And I'm just like, and I guess it just reinforces the unethical and the immoral nature of the ASA. I mean, in so many ways. I mean, obviously how they're treating the pod children, obviously this surveillance of the Pierces, and so there is that, and I'm hoping in the finale they do expose Odell for all the things that he's been doing throughout the season, because talk about he and Tobias well. I mean, basically the only difference in many regards to what they're doing is one works for the government and Tobias is just, crime lord. And so I like the way they do set that up. I mean, that is a very good way of, seeing the world in Friedland. So because also when I thought Tobias wanted to become an arms dealer, I couldn't help but think back to the Flash with meta dealer with Amunet.
Gold Dust.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Gold Dust. Yeah. Gold Dust. Yeah. But then Amunet, she also was a meta dealer too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen these meta dealers appear in other shows. Going on in this episode too. I'm glad, obviously they're bringing out Jennifer and her, still learning how to use her power, and, she's supercharged and obviously still wants vengeance for, Khalil's death. And so there's a lot of threads that, for a penultimate episode, I guess some will get resolved next week, but some will probably continue until season 3.
Yeah, it was such a filler episode in the most bizarre way.
Yeah.
Like there were critical scenes occurring. There was a lot of focus on the overall points of the season and the motivations and where the characters started and how they've gotten to this point. Yet at the same time, I felt like nothing really happened in a way. Mm-hmm. Like, and I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, you're going to have this discussion. Well, obviously, we're going to be spending the next hour counting down all the ways Jennifer and Anissa don't abide by the rules. And they ended up focusing on the most important one, which is really, Jennifer, we know you want to kill Tobias. We do too, but you can't because, right. And a part of me, I really do. I want to see them go there and have her kill him.
Yeah.
I want to see that moment of innocence being lost and them exploring what that means in season 3. Because I think that you could go so many different places if you did that with her and with the effects. Like, what does that mean for Anissa?
Honestly, I think they will. I mean, why else would you bring this whole discussion up at the dinner table unless either she does it or Jefferson does it?
Mm-hmm. Well, see, even if Jefferson does it, it's too much a bow on top of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like he kills the same man who killed his father. He gets his revenge. Okay. If Jennifer does it, Jennifer kills the man who killed Khalil and her grandfather. Mm-hmm. But Jennifer also loses all innocence. Mm-hmm. At an age where that's where she's transitioning from that age of a child into an adult and into a superhero, but she just killed somebody, which is a very non-superhero. Like, I feel like there would be such a more fascinating take on where they could go with her if she does this now at such a beginning stage, because yes, as much as that's like, no, you're not supposed to do that, I can also see there being a redemption into where she goes with her abilities and becoming a hero.
Yeah. But of course, and then I guess the crazy doctor won't reanimate Tobias because he's still mad at him for killing Lady Eve, so
I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. One thing I was thinking about during this episode, especially because this is very similar to Supergirl, where you have a lot of politics, mm-hmm. you have a lot of genre intertwined, and we always equate it to the Twilight Zone, like that noir-ish mm-hmm. feel to this show.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, because of the green light babies, because they are very willing to use the term metahuman, will we get to a point in season 3 or season 4 where the Jefferson family have to come to terms with suddenly being treated differently, like in terms of metahuman rights?
Yeah. I mean, the stage has definitely been. The groundwork's foundation's been put there where they could go in that direction in season 3 or 4, assuming they make it to a 4th season. But they could easily start addressing it now because Jefferson is out outed as far as obviously Detective Henderson knows who he is. Maybe I guess they've touched on it. Particularly with the Pod children.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking about. It's the Pod children because for the Jefferson family to really be affected, they have to be unmasked.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a reason why Jennifer was so resistant to accepting her powers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of that fear of being different and being treated differently.
Right.
And everything that she thought she had in store for her future was suddenly questioned. Like that great moment about, will I be able to have kids? Like, what does that mean? Will I even want to have kids?
Exactly.
So I wonder, the more these metahumans keep popping up and are not wearing a mask, are we going to have a different conversation about, well, they're able to do A, B, and C, and I can only do this, so suddenly we have to treat them as lesser than.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good place where they could definitely mine, because they've touched on those issues throughout. From Friedland with South Friedland, and even in this episode with Lynn, and Lynn would be the obvious choice to sort of start spearheading this type, because she actually wanted Jennifer to talk to Wanda to help her, deal with her powers as far as being the Wind Girl, and how Lynn thought maybe, given that Jennifer is coming into her own as far as accepting her meta abilities, she could possibly be that voice that could help Wanda as she tries to do the same.
Yep. But we all know if Sarah throws out a theory, it doesn't happen. If Will throws it out, it always happens. But Sarah, no. I'm never right about these shows. I should be right more often.
You should
be. Not. All right. Well, I think that's it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk. That's at WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.